for your girl.
That's right, it's a podcast.
It's pop for your girl.
We got to go at.
Pop for your girl. It's pop for your girl. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Nwugochi, and welcome to Pop for Your Girl. Episode 1, Season 2 is finally here, and today's episode is called Lemme Hold Something, okay? As a woman of color, you have to be financially stable. You have to even plan to be financially stable. Like, it's a big deal, sis. So that's what I'm here to encourage you on today. The Let Me Hold Something episode is going up, all the way up. So let's go. First of all, I got my Go Girl segment. Y'all know I usually do this segment later on in the show, but today, I have a guest joining me, and she is my Go Girl, y'all. She gets the Go Girl for this episode, y'all. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? She's an author, y'all. She also just graduated with her master's in finance, okay? How many of us can do that? Y'all financial and stuff. We can't do stuff like that, so she get a Go Girl. Hey, okay. And also, she is an advocate for financial literacy, and she's working on her personal finance book for all of us. She's trying to help us go after this bag and get these gains, get these coins. So, without further ado, I want to welcome my sis, Zaynah Igidi. What's up, sis?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, you know what? You are my first guest on the show.
Yeah, she didn't give me any treat basket or anything like that. I'm kind of hungry, stomach grumbling, but it's okay.
I feel bad, but you got coffee though.
I did get coffee.
She got a cup of coffee. So hey, but you know what? I got you later on. I got you.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
Look, I want to just celebrate you, sis. I got to give you your roses because you just graduated with your master's in finance. And that's a big deal because I hated accounting. I know it's two different things, but I know you probably had to take accounting classes.
Yeah.
You probably had to take math classes and all this stuff. And that's hard. How did you make it through?
It wasn't that bad. I was actually just talking to my daughter yesterday. The degree just came in the mail. Whoop, whoop. So she was like, "Oh my God, last time when you got your bachelor's degree in the mail, you cried." And she was like, "Why aren't you crying?" And it was just because during that time I was just going through a lot of different changes in my life, and that was really hard. I quit on myself so many times. I was like, I don't think I can do this. But once the master's degree came around, yeah, the coursework was harder, but my life was more stable. I was more focused. It was like I knew what I needed to expect from myself, and I knew what I needed to do to pull through. And I think that's really what made it easier.
Ooh, yes, sis. I feel you on that. Like, I have a bachelor's degree, and I'm like, that master's, woo.
It's only 2 years less. It's 2 years less.
You're right. But God, you're going to have to speak to me to go after that master's. But now I really want to, before we even dive into the Let Me Hold Something episode, I really want to ask you, why is finance so important, especially for women of color? Because you are a woman of color, and you're in the finance industry now.
Yeah.
And why is that so important for us?
I think it's because when you look at American history, Black people in general were put down. Initially, we were 3/5 of a man, right?
Yeah.
And then you have, so we couldn't vote, we couldn't do all these different things, we weren't considered equal. But then you have women in general, not just Black women, but women in general that were looked at like, well, you can't work and you can't do this. So then you have Black women, so it's like a double whammy. It's like we're Black, then we're women, so it's like we're at the bottom of the barrel as far as society is concerned. And so in any way that we can, not necessarily prove ourselves, but maybe prove ourselves to ourselves that we are great, we are capable of everything anybody else is capable of, and even more than that. We're just as great, we're just as capable, that's important, and finance just so happens to be my lane.
Yes, sis. We got to start trailblazing. We can't look at it like, these industries that are so what's the word when it's just infiltrated? It's that these industries that are infiltrated by usually white men holding the flame, and they're, trailblazing, they're running and going after it. And then it's like, for us, it feels so far away.
Yeah.
It feels so hard to break through. Like even when we do get one foot in the door, like, you know, to actually be on top and be successful in it, like we need more of us like blazing in those industries. So I just want to really give you a shout out and just say, go girl, like go after it, trailblaze this industry, you know, do things that, you know, people may have tried to box us out and tell us that we couldn't do. Just keep going after it.
That's so good. I think that's the corporate world, period. It's like when people of color, when women of color especially, is so true. Like once you're Black and then you add being a woman to it, it's just like this combination that's like, what do you think you're doing here? But I think I'm getting to a point where it's like, we're a part of this society. We're an integrated society. So we do want to, you know, break those barriers. But at the same time, I think that things are evolving to the point where it's like, I'm not necessarily trying to be in people's spaces. I'm trying to create my own space.
Yes, sis, create your own. That's what we talking about today. Like breaking these barriers. And she's kind of segueing into the next segment, you guys, because y'all know, if y'all listen to the show before, we have the Patch Your Weave segment, okay, which is all about, you know, just breaking barriers, okay? And let me just break this down for you guys. Zaynah, I don't know if you ever, you know, well, I know you wore weave before, but you know when you got a little itch when, and I don't care if you wearing weave when you braiding your hair or wearing a wig or you got an actual sew in your hair, okay? You're gonna have that itch because of the hair, okay? And sometimes when you in public and you have that itch as a woman of color, you kind of think twice before you just go at it and just start, you know, patting, because it's such a stereotype to, you know, just pat your weave in public. And sometimes you want to hold back from that. But when it comes to breaking barriers, one of the things that we're trying to do with this podcast is just say, you know, although it may feel uncomfortable, that is you. If you feel like you need to patch your weave, it may not be the cultural norm to some people, but go ahead and do it, sis, because that's you. And the more that we do things that are uncomfortable for us, but is normal to our culture, then we tear down barriers for other races. We tear down barriers for other cultures and allow them to see what we're doing in a different light. The people that don't understand that patch your weave or that itch, they start to understand that. So, you know, even with this Let Me Hold Something episode, I kind of want to speak to the being a lender and not a borrower mentality. Like allowing ourselves to like move past being a lender and not being afraid to give onto other people, okay? So we're going to dive into that in a second. But first of all, Zaynah, I want to talk to you really quick. Have you ever experienced a situation where you were just uncomfortable to be yourself because you may be afraid of how, you know, people may perceive the Black culture? You know what I mean? Like one of the things that I just, you know, all people believe that, you know, all Black people love fried chicken and hot sauce and watermelon. You know what I mean? And so when you are around mixed company, you may not necessarily ask for hot sauce, you know, but have you ever experienced that? I don't know if it may be in the corporate world or just in your daily life where you just don't want to be yourself or want to do things or break a barrier based upon your race or what people may think of you.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I work, and I'm going to try to be tactful. I work in an office. It's a small office. It's about 6 of us in the office. And I am the only Black person in that office. And we are in Georgia, to add insult to injury.
North
So it's
Georgia,
like,
okay?
Right. So I'm like in a room full of people that hold certain views. I'm going to put it that way. So definitely it's always a struggle on a daily basis of, do I say this? Do I respond to this? Because they talk freely.
Right.
Do not, you know, and I think that's one thing that Black people need to realize is like nobody else is worried about making people uncomfortable.
Yes.
It appears as though it's only us that's like, is this okay? Is this, especially in this current climate, like nobody else is worried about being politically correct or anything. Everybody's just letting it all hang out. And I'm not saying that that's right, because I have my own feelings about that. But I just feel like if everybody else is so free to be themselves, whatever that means, whether it's beautiful or ugly, we should feel free to be our beautiful selves. And so I definitely have experienced that, where it's like there are racial topics that are brought up and nobody's like, oh, I wonder if this, it appears as though nobody's thinking, I wonder if this makes Zaynah uncomfortable. And so there have been a couple of times where I'm like, okay, how much, like, I have to say something about this. And then I have to be mindful of how I say it. And then if somebody makes me upset at work because they're actually, like, I have a coworker who's always like pushing her work off on me. And it's like, do you realize you're not my boss? And I have to be mindful of how I come across in that sense and how I handle those situations, because I don't want to be the Black girl that's always having a problem. Because no matter, like, and I think that subconsciously we all kind of look at Black people that way, even other Black people, that it's like when you see a white person and a Black person doing the same exact thing, you process it differently, unfortunately. And so I'm just at a point where it's like I'm gonna be my whole self, which means I am a tactful person. I try to be tactful and I try to be mindful of people's feelings and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, if my dignity, who I am, my identity is more important than keeping a job, or I don't know, it's more important than anything. So I just have, me being true to who I am is more important than anything else, because we're so silenced and we're always told how we're to behave.
We're conditioned.
There's a standard. I was listening to a conversation that two people were having last night on Instagram, and they said, there's a white standard. And I think that so many Black people try to fit into that, like, this is how I'm supposed to act. And it's like, there's something called being a civilized person, being a good person, knowing how to conduct yourself. And then there's losing your identity. And that's just, there's a line there.
Yeah. And it's so, I love my Black men, especially like, with everything that's going on. You guys know about the George Floyd situation. And, just the climate that we're in right now in America, when it comes to racism, when it comes to, making sure that our Black men are encouraged, but just as a community, like doing better, because, it's not just Black men that have it bad, like Black women, women of color in general, we have it really bad, because I know, you said earlier, like us being like the bottom of the totem pole, because of our gender, because of our skin color, we're not just, marginalized, but we're sectionalized. Like we're Black, but then we are in the section of being a woman too. And so it gets like very hard when you put us in places and predicaments like, corporate America, where, they may not necessarily listen to us because we're Black, or they may take our emotions differently because we're a woman. Like we can't be loud and emotional. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have to contain so much about ourselves. And, it's just.
And then it's difficult. Like one thing that I've experienced countless times, like at my current job, is like, to be honest with you, the job that I have now, I took because I was pursuing my master's degree and I needed a job where I could still support my family financially and also kind of be able to focus more on my school than, because I was a manager prior to this job. So I was like, I need to do something where I have less responsibility. But at the end of the day, I am still me. I still have a brain. I still consider myself a smart person. So even though I may not be the manager in the office, I'm still going to vocalize my opinion. Hey, I don't think we should do it this way. I think we should do it that way. And I feel like, okay, I get looked at like I'm speaking Chinese. Like, first of all, who are you? Who are you? Why are you talking? That doesn't make sense. And it's like, what do you do when you know that what you're saying is the right way? Or what you're saying, like I've literally been told, and not even like with things necessarily directly related to the work that we're doing, but maybe just in casual conversation, like, I don't see that. Like, if it's a math problem, I'm a finance major, it's fine. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't see that pattern, because we're working on a pattern, and it's like, it's definitely right there.
It's right in front of your face. But, You ain't gonna.
I guess I'm the stupid one,
right?
That's fine.
But it's crazy. It's almost like you have to prove yourself. Like you have to first, allow people to see, even regardless of if you're right. You can't always say that you're right. You have to kind of be less than before you can be greater. And so that's one of the things why this podcast is so important, because I feel like the more we create conversations, the more we bring it to light, we be vocal about it and not just suppress it and not just keep on living, then we can actually make a change. So, with Pat Your Weave, we're going to go into that segment real quick. But, I just want to make sure that you guys got your listening ears on, okay? Because we about to break some stereotypes today. And the main stereotype that we focusing on breaking is just becoming the lender, okay? And I'm gonna tell y'all a situation real quick. Like, if you have your friend that come to you and say, sis, like, I'm going through this situation. Like, I need to hold $1,000 real quick because, but this is if you got it. I'm not talking about, if you don't have it and you can't give it. But if you have it, if you work hard for your coin, okay, and you got something stored up in savings, you know what I mean? And your sis come to you and she know you got it too, because you always,
right,
talking about it. You flexing a little bit, but y'all know we all got a little bit of flexing. But you got it, and she come to you and she talk to you and she tell you her situation and she asks you to hold something. Like, my initial thing is, this is why I got Zaynah on here, because she about to help us. Because I had a thing where I was like, you know what? Like, I have to hold on to my money. Like, I can't let nobody else have it, because for one, I ain't gonna get it back. Like, I'm not gonna let you hold nothing. Because, it's different if I just give you a gift.
Right.
But if you tell me you're gonna pay me back and it's a substantial amount of money, like, I'm going to feel a certain type of way. I'm going to feel like, our friendship ain't even going to be the same. It's not going to be the same till you pay me back. Like, I'm going to be, I'm not going to be able to have conversations on the phone with you, because I'm going to be like, okay, she must have forgot that I let her hold this. So you ain't going to bring it up. So you ain't going to say, oh yeah, I got you
about
on
your money. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just saying, just a reminder that it's coming back to you, sis.
Right.
But like, we as a culture, as a Black culture, even, I'm talking to my women out there, how can we change the stigma or the stereotype that, the Black dollar, or, us as in our culture, we don't lend. We're not the lenders. Like, when we go to the banks, a lot of people that own these banks, a lot of investors are white males, and then after that, it's the Black male. And then after that, you go into women, so at the end of the day, like, how do we change that? How do we change the idea that if I lend, first we can talk about, the actual situation. And then I do want to go deeper in how that can kind of cultivate us to, become investors and, whatnot. So yeah, I want to hear from you, sis. Like, what you think about that situation? If your sis asked you for $1,000, like, how you feel?
Man.
You gonna let her hold something?
Nobody has ever asked me for that much money, which is $1,000 is not a lot of money, which
right.
is a whole nother topic as to different, I guess depending on where you are in life, it can be a lot. So I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, because at one point $1,000 was a lot to me too.
Right.
But it really boils down, with anything, it boils down to relationship. Like, I'm not gonna give $1,000 to just anybody. My personal thing is, if I give you mentioned giving a gift earlier, I don't think it all depends on your relationship with the person. In the same way, there's a reason why there are credit checks involved.
Exactly.
When we want to borrow from corporations, and it's because they're like, are you gonna give me my money back? That's pretty much what they're asking when they want us. Let me check your credit, because they're wondering, are you gonna pay me back?
Are you good for it?
Right. Yeah. Are you gonna pay me back? Are you going to be able to pay me back?
Exactly.
Are you the kind of person that pays people back?
Right.
It's about relationship. Like if somebody comes to me and they're asking for money and I'm like, you know, first of all, I'm gonna talk to my husband. I'm like, bro, like they've been struggling for the past 15 years and I love them.
Right.
Can we give them this money and not expect, like, do we need this money back is the first question.
Yes.
Because I'm never like, nah, you ain't getting no money from me. Now, if somebody's just like, if I just saw them like yesterday, they was posting videos, they, you know, at Disney World and they family having a good time. And then tomorrow they like, yo, you got some gas money? Like, no, I ain't got no, I'm not.
Shit.
No, I wouldn't say it like that. No, trust me, I understand. I'm not going to be like, no, I ain't got no gas money, but we're going to have a conversation like, bro, why do you need gas money?
Exactly.
How you get to Disney World? How you pay for Disney World? How did you eat at Disney World?
At this point, that financial coach, like that kicks in.
Like we gotta have a like I'll give you gas money, like I'm not gonna, or food, like I'm not gonna watch your kids starve if I got it. Right. But we need to have a conversation because I'm not footing your bill while you're spending your money recklessly. Right. But it's also about relationship, knowing who you're dealing with. But if you have somebody that you know they actually like, first of all, somebody needs your help. Like you shouldn't be like, nah, I ain't. You know what I'm saying? Like that should never be our mindset, especially as Black people, especially as Black women, because we know that we're 10 steps behind everybody else already. Yeah. And that's a part of the reason why we stay in that position, because we're not, our culture doesn't help each other move forward. Woo, we're all focused on ourselves.
Girl, you just said something. And that leads me to, you know, as a Black society or Black culture, like why do we hold on so tight to our money? Like, why is that? Like, you know, even, and I'm going to just say this, even in like, you know, our music, you know, in the culture, like, you know, we always talk about the culture, like a lot of it, like we flex with the what we wear. We got to have the most expensive stuff. And it's funny because now I'm just now tapping into this. Like, I don't know if y'all seen this show on Netflix called Black AF. Like the first episode, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't watched the whole season or nothing like that. But the first episode, they kind of talk about that, like, you know, us having to flex as a society, like us as a culture, as a group of people. Like we have this mentality that, you know, the flashier, the better. The more, you know, you're able to be more flashy, that means that, you know, you about your business or whatever. But at the end of the day,
you're not.
It don't really mean nothing. Right. It's crazy. Like, why do you think we have to hold on so tight to our money? And, you know, when it comes to being that lender or when it comes to being an investor, we ain't invested in that. Like, it's a certain amount of fear there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the rabbit hole goes like deeper than, like, we could talk about that for hours. Right. Like, because I during my bachelor's degree, my long journey, longer than 4 year journey of getting my bachelor's degree. Look, sis, I was a psychology major, then I was a business major, then I was a sociology major, and then I was a business major again. But anyway, during that time, just my brief studies in sociology and psychology, it goes so much deeper than what's wrong with y'all. And that's one of the issues that I have with white people who mean well. Because you have racists and then you have white people that they really just don't get it. Some of them don't want to do the work to understand. Right. But some of them genuinely just don't get it. And it's like, if you really, really think about it, like, we as a culture have been messed up mentally so bad, and it goes so deep, and there's so much to undo that there is a reason why when people, you know, when Black people get money, they want to show it. They're like, oh snap, I finally have money, right? Because we don't have money. We don't have a long history of generational anything.
Wealth, right?
And then not even just wealth as far as money goes, but we don't have much to be proud of. We don't have, you know, good things being passed down in our homes. We don't have love being passed down. We don't have peace being passed down. So it's just like anything that we get, it's like, I'm not letting this go. Right. Because this is the first time I ever have anything to feel good about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's real. Oh my gosh. That's so real. If y'all haven't got the Michelle Obama book, Becoming, she actually kind of talks about that. Like she talks about how, you know, her uncles, like, went through a period in time where, they couldn't provide for their family because, the jobs were mostly given to white males. And so they had to have jobs that were like literally the bottom of the totem pole jobs that they, it's nothing that would allow you to have an income that will allow you to have anything left over. Like literally you are going to be living paycheck to paycheck. And this system was, it was like this for a really, really long time. So if you don't have anything left over to invest, like you only have enough just to get by, it will create, that snowball effect to where you can't pass nothing down. Poverty. Yeah, you can't pass nothing down to your kids. So when, like you said, when they get something, it's just kind of like, okay, we arrived. So, let's kind of like flex or whatever. But this is a really good topic. Like we can like go on and on and on and talk about it. But I want to tap into the solution a little bit now that we kind of established, the history and the background of everything. I read a devotional one time going back to, what we're talking about, just being able to lend. And the devotional was talking about how there was a guy, he was a pastor, he lended $500 to another guy to get his car fixed. But at the end of the day, he knew he really didn't have the $500. He was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and just give it to you because you're in need. It's not like my bills are paid. Like I don't really need it right now. But I could just save this. Like we ain't got it like that. But he let the guy hold something, and the guy was like, yeah, I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. Never paid him back still. And it had been years. A year or two had went by, and he got a phone call, a voicemail, saying, oh yeah, I just wanted to touch bases with you. I know I still owe you this and that. It's coming. Like I'm definitely gonna give it back to you. But within that 2-year period, he had thought about it. Like his daughter had went through something, and his daughter had ended up needing that $500 within that 2-year period. And so his mind went to it, but before he could get mad, somebody had left a check for $500 in his mailbox to help with the expenses. It was an anonymous check. He didn't know where the the check came from, but he was like, wow, like, regardless of the money that I let him borrow, all of my bills have been paid. Like we haven't been struggling. Right. Although my daughter needed that $500, God still supplied it. You know what I mean? And so when it came down to it, him being a lender actually allowed him to put his faith somewhere else, because sometimes like, and I just want to speak to you guys out there, like, all my sisters out there, there's just a little bit of encouragement. Like sometimes we think, lending is a bad thing, or we're fearful of what's going to happen if we let go of the money. Even when you think about giving and, your tithes to the church, like we're like, we sometimes it's hard to actually give a 10% of, what you earn. However, it comes down to character, it comes down to faith, and it comes down to building like a certain level of trust. Even if you're going to get to a level, this is for my entrepreneurs out there, okay? Because being an entrepreneur, you're constantly having to invest. And literally, you may not see a return the next day. Right. You may not see like, that $500 in your mailbox when you need it. But at the end of the day, you have to let it go so that it can come back to you. And so, just shifting gears a little bit, I believe that one of the reasons why our culture we can't thrive, and it is kind of like that crab bucket mentality, is because we don't sow into each other. And because of fear, it holds us back from being that lender and saying, oh, I see your vision, sis. Let me sow into you. I see your vision. Let me invest in you. I see the need. So let me give it to you, knowing that if it don't come back through you, it's going to come back some way, shape, or form. And so, just breaking that boundary and breaking that stereotype, I just want to shut that down today, because regardless on if you get it back from that individual or not. You have to have the faith to know that if you had it to give, it's going to come back.